Hello and welcome to the third annual edition of Beijing Combat, a Belt and Road international fighting competition. I'm Damion Jones, bringing you all the action from the Changping Gymnasium on the northeast side of the Chinese capital. We are streaming live on the CGTN app, as well as Weibo, Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. Basically, you name the social media platform, and we've got you covered. The evening has already gotten underway with the first match featuring Anton Otverchenko of Azerbaijan defeating Ma Shuang of China in the first round. That was a men's light middleweight MMA bout, and tonight's action features not only MMA, but also kickboxing and boxing. It's going to be a very exciting competition, and coming up next, we have a women's lightweight MMA bout, and it's featuring Władysława Jaworska of Poland taking on Chen Meng of China. Let's go to the ring for the introduction from the announcer. Now we have the introduction, and the first competitor is coming down. That's going to be Jaworska, the young lady out of Poland, and she's looking to make a real big impression on this Chinese audience. Now we should mention that we've got the Belt and Road fighting competition, as I said earlier when we started the show, and that's connecting the nations of the new Silk Road between Europe and Asia. Poland joining up with that effort, which is not only Chinese political and economic and cultural implications connecting with the Eurasian belt, and this MMA contest along with the boxing and the kickboxing is all a part of that. And now as Jaworska gets set to walk into the ring, once again we said this is a female lightweight MMA bout. Jaworska comes in with a professional record of 5 wins and 2 losses. Her opponent, Chen Meng from China, 3 wins and 2 losses. They're roughly, she has a bit more experience, or I take that back actually, Chen Meng is 4-4, and she recently won the International MMA Asian Championship, so she'll be looking to continue her winning streak as she takes on Jaworska. Now let's listen in for the introduction of Chen Meng from the announcer in the ring. Jaworska stepping through the ropes. She's ready, and this audience is about to erupt. So now we've got Chen Meng coming down the aisle. You can hear the fans with noisemakers as we focus on her entrance as she comes down the ramp. So now we've got Chen Meng on the edge of the apron. Victory from her, obviously, in the only women's bout of the night. The female lightweights taking 7 matches on Jaworska's tally in her professional career. Chen Meng's got 8, so obviously this is going to be the 9th for her, and a victory would take her over the 500 mark. She would improve from 4-4 to 5-4. Jaworska clearly hoping to avoid that from happening. She wants to go from 5-2 to 6-2. Chen Meng completing her formalities as her trainer makes sure she's all set on the apron before she steps between the ropes. looking to give this crowd a thrill in the female lightweight mixed martial arts competition. Once again, let's focus our attention on the ring as Chin Meng gets ready to step through the ropes. So now we've got Chin in the ring on the opposite side from Jaworska, the Polish fighter, wearing the blue, Chin Meng in the red and black and yellow. And it's going to be quite a bout. We should see a contrast of styles. Chin Meng bringing the Asian fighting styles, while Jaworska will bring in a lot of the European styles. She specializes a bit in grappling, so you can expect her to try to go for a quick takedown, while Chin Meng will probably go for a variety of kicks before she starts trying to grapple and look to bring her opponent down. But that's just what the scouting report says. And as this audience gets revved up, we'll see what the fighters actually bring as they step to the center of the circle. Final introductions from the announcer as he gives the fighters instructions to have a clean fight. No cheating, no gouging, no illegal moves. Just a good, clean combat here at the Chongping Gymnasium on the northeast side of Beijing. The anticipation still building for this women's lightweight MMA bout. And we have the referee being introduced, and he's the man that's going to ensure that we have a fair fight. Now we have the introductions of the fighters. And as everyone clears away, the fighters step to the center of the ring. Referee giving his final instructions. They touch gloves, and we're about to be underway. There's the bell, and the first round is underway. First jab is landed by Jaworska. Chin Meng with a quick takedown attempt, switches to a double, and she's got Jaworska on her back. The Polish fighter and they're right on the rope, so this is probably going to end up in a break as Jaworska rolls around trying to free herself. Chin Meng still pushing, still trying to keep Jaworska on her back, but she's kicked away, and they exchange kicks, and now they're both back on their feet. Good opening series there from the Chinese fighter Chin Meng. Now we'll see how the Polish fighter Jaworska responds. She's behind her, Jaworska that is. Chin Meng has her in a clinch. They're both still on their feet. A knee from Jaworska. Chin Meng shrugs that off, no problem. And now Jaworska's on top, and she starts delivering some punches as Chin Meng rolls over to her back. Punches from Chin Meng on both sides of her head, and she tries to go under her arm to try to loosen this grip that Jaworska has. Chin Meng now trying to make with some movement, but Jaworska keeps coming with punches to the back of her head. Chin Meng blocking with her glove, and now she's trying to shake her off. Chin Meng grabbing an arm, trying to move through. A little bit of grappling skill, but she's still in the down position on the mat. Jaworska holding her tightly, and there's not much Chin Meng can do. The referee checking to see how she is. She doesn't want to tap this early, obviously, but the referee making sure. Chin Meng grabbing onto Jaworska's elbow, trying to see if she can get some kind of leverage as she moves up to a triangle base. But Jaworska, the Polish fighter, has her locked in tightly. Chin Meng's corner shouting instructions, trying to exhort their fighter to do something to get out of this precarious position. The crowd getting loud as she tries to shake her off from a tripod base, but it's nothing doing. Jaworska has the legs locked in, and now Chin Meng is prone on the mat. And while we have the women's action going on, I'm joined by a man some call the power behind the throne. That is because he's the founder of one of the top promotions in the western part of the U.S., King of the Cage, and that would be Terry Trebilcock. Thank you for joining us, Terry.
Thank you for having me on.
Well, the first thing I'll ask you, since you're coming over here to China, what inspired you to get involved with an event like Beijing Combat?
Well, I mean, China's probably the #1 market in the world. It's the place where MMA has the most chance to expand. After doing 700 individual shows plus myself around the world, I felt like this was the place to be. And I looked for what I thought would be the top organization to be able to do that, and that was Beijing Combat.
Okay, and how do you assess what you've seen in this trip and also over the years from the development of Chinese MMA?
I've seen the progress of the Chinese fighters. They've always been some of the better athletes in the world, if not the best athletes in the world, but they needed the experience in MMA. Being a great boxer, being a great wrestler, and a great jiu-jitsu fighter, that's excellent. But you have to take and be able to put that all together, and you have to put it all together under the lights of a fight. And that takes a little time and a little experience. And as you can see right now, they're doing very well.
Now, obviously, you've been nearly 2 decades in the game. I believe you started King of the Cage like about 20 years ago. How have you gotten to this point, and what kind of lessons do you think the Chinese MMA promotions can learn from your experience?
Well, I think, like I said, again, it just takes time. You have a fantastic promotion. You have some of the better fighters, some of the better wrestlers, some of the better boxers in the world. It takes time to get there, and I see the Chinese doing it at a pretty fast rate.
And what do you make of the enthusiasm of this crowd? Obviously, their fighter right now in the women's bout is in a down position, and she's trying to battle back, and they're really cheering her on.
Well, I love to see it because I take myself back to 1999 when the crowd was just learning MMA in the U.S. and realized they're there. And it's just a great time for the sport. It's a great time to watch a sport grow in a market with 2 billion people.
And obviously, a lot of promotions around the world would like to pick your brains. What are some of the ideas you think that you can give to an organization like Beijing Combat, as well as some of the other federations around the world, about growing their enterprise?
All business is about relations. You establish good relations with the television people and good relations with the sponsors and the fighters. Basically, you try to get everybody to play in the sand together. And if you can find a way to do that, you get to keep doing business with the same people over and over again, and you get to grow. If you don't run it clean, then, you know, it's tough. You're looking for new people, new sponsors, new organizations all the time. So run it clean, run it consistent, and you'll have the opportunity to grow in what is one of the fastest growing sports in the world.
Now, King of the Cage has a great audience in California, Nevada, Arizona, a lot of the western states in the U.S. What do you think about the prospects of possibly bringing in a Chinese fighter at some point with the growing Asian population in the western part of the U.S.?
Well, I'm broadcast nationally, so you know, I have 700,000 to 800,000 people all across the U.S. turning in weekly. I air in 63 countries around the world, so the fan base is pretty big. Bringing a Chinese fighter, I'm absolutely interested in doing that. Mr. Yang himself and I actually have a meeting tomorrow morning about bringing some fighters to the U.S. to do some training, possibly bringing some U.S. fighters out here to China to do some training, kind of cross-promoting a little bit more than even we're doing right now.
Okay, and where do you see the future of MMA going here in China? Obviously, it's at a very early developmental stage now.
Well, Beijing Combat is, I think, believing that now in its 3rd show, about a year and a half in. I expect them to do 4 or 5 shows in 2019. And that's a huge improvement. That's taking 1 year and doubling what they've done in the previous 18 months. So I'm expecting big things.
And obviously you specialize in a lot of the MMA, but we shouldn't neglect the kickboxing and the boxing, which we also have on the card here. Boxing, obviously, with Zhou Shiming winning a couple of Olympic gold medals, has really taken off in China in recent years. Where do you see the fusion of all of these fighting styles coming together?
I'm a huge boxing fan. I wouldn't call myself an expert, but I might be an expert fan. But I love boxing. China's always had great amateur boxing. I've watched them in the Olympics year after year. That's just going to continue to flourish here, obviously. And tonight we have a WBC champion from China fighting. That's exciting and exciting for me as a fan. Kickboxing, it's been around for a long time, and I don't see it going anywhere. China's always going to be competitive in that. It's combining boxing, kickboxing, and jiu-jitsu that really gets my juices flowing, and that's MMA.
Okay, and what are some of the latest trends in these different disciplines that you think can really catch on with the Chinese audience?
What you found now in the early days of the sport, it was a bunch of strikers fighting each other, and then the wrestlers took over and took them to the ground and dominated. Then the strikers learned how to wrestle, and then the wrestlers learned how to strike. And now what you find is people spending so much time on defending the wrestling and the jiu-jitsu and learning how to strike. Jones is one of the top fighters in the world these days, and anybody that can take him down can't hold him down. Quentin Jackson's a great friend of mine, and I watched the fight. I just couldn't believe how strong Jones was in that fight and how tough he was to hold down for a world-class wrestler like Quentin Jackson.
Okay, now what are some of the pitfalls that you think they have to watch out for as they try to expand and grow and build a bigger audience?
You know, one of the things I like especially about the way they're running shows tonight is there's no elbows on the ground. In the early days of MMA, nobody used elbows because knees on the ground were legal. You could throw knees from the side control, and although it looked graphic, you would knee from the side so the head would have a chance to move. Now the elbows on the ground are a little bit rougher because you have a mat behind the head, and when you're hitting down to somebody, you have their elbow pinned between the ground. If it was my choice, I'd like to see elbows eliminated on the ground from the sport of MMA and have knees brought back in. My injuries and my insurance, 90% of it is all elbows on the ground. So what I see as a trend going is any injuries that guys are getting from elbows on the ground and really nowhere else in the sport except what you get in a normal wrestling match.
Okay, now we should talk about as well, I want to bring up doping because over the weekend we had a mega fight in boxing with Canelo Alvarez coming back from his doping suspension, defeating Triple G Gennady Golovkin to unify the middleweight titles. In MMA, what are some of the things that you're doing to kind of steer people away from these kind of violations?
Well, one more time on that.
What are some of the things that you're doing in the world of MMA to steer your fighters away from doping and some of these kind of illegal actions?
Well, you know, doping has its benefits and it has its non-benefits also. If you time everything right in your doping, you might get the benefit that specific day, but it can hurt you just as much. And the long-term non-benefits of doping is coming out all the time. The fact is if you're not doping, you're going to be much healthier coming into your fight. You're going to be much healthier down the road. And in the end, a fighter has a very short-term career, you know, as a fighter. You'll live a lot longer than just your fighting career. And I think the benefits of having guys not dope is they're finding out every day is much greater.
Okay, thank you very much, Terry Trebilcock. It's great having you, and good luck with your endeavors here in China.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Once again, that was Terry Trebilcock, the founder of King of the Cage, one of the top fighting promotions in the U.S. He's here working with Beijing Combat, and not only is he an MMA fan, but also, as you heard, he's a fan of the kickboxing as well as the boxing, and he's looking very eagerly to the future as they try to grow MMA here in China. Now, with the women's match over, we're going to go to the third men's match on the card as we continue with the action this evening. Now, let's look into the ring as the referee is in the corner, and we've got the fighters coming to the ring. That's going to be the fighter from Belarus taking on another fighter from China. He's not here yet, but that's Ma Ming Shuo, and he's taking on Samuel Sarsian from Armenia, I should say, not Belarus. And this is going to be an interesting match. We just saw Chen Meng battling her way through on the women's side. And now we'll see what happens on the men's side with the Chinese fighter, Ma. Once again, let's take the camera into the ring as the announcer continues to announce the Chinese fighter who's going to be coming down the ramp. Let's focus on the ramp. So now we have Ma Meng-hao coming to the ring, getting the final check from his trainer before he steps between the ropes against a man from Armenia, Samuel Sargsyan. Let's continue to focus on the final preparations of the Chinese fighter before he steps through the ropes. Now a final check of Ma's hair, ears, make sure his body's all smooth, his gloves, making sure there's no problem there with the gloves and the tape. And he's getting ready to get into the ring for this light middleweight MMA bout, the final MMA bout of the evening here at Beijing Combat. We've seen 3 competitions so far. The first match of the night, we had the men's light middleweight of Chenko defeating Ma of China. Then we had Chinmeng of China in the women's bout, taking on Jarowska from Poland and getting the win. And now we've got the men back in the ring, light middleweight, Ma Meng-hao. Let's continue to focus in the ring as the referee is about to be introduced. As you take a look at Sargsyan, he looks rough and tough, and he's going to bring a lot of the Caucasus Mountain style from the Armenia, a lot of emphasis on the traditional wrestling and grappling. He'll be looking to take his opponent down to the mat. Ma Meng-hao obviously is versed in a lot of the Asian styles. We're talking about Kung Fu, Wushu, a bit of Tai Chi Chuan, and we'll see how he blends all of those together. But he'll also try to bring in some kickboxing expertise as well, as he looks to put together the full package against his opponent from Armenia, Samuel Sargsyan. Final announcements being made by the announcer in the ring. And you look at Ma, he's the picture of focus, the picture of concentration, going through his game plan in his head as he gets ready to step to center circle. He's got about 4,000 fans here at the Chongping Gymnasium, the vast majority of them hoping for a victory by Ma here in this men's light middleweight bout. You hear the noisemakers coming together, you hear the crowd noise, and the anticipation is building here at the Chongping Gymnasium. Once again, the introduction of the referee, and he's going to be trying to keep everything clean between these 2 fighters as we look for a great finish in this bout. Sargsyan, obviously, he comes in with a bit more experience than Ma, but that won't matter in the ring. It's all about tenacity, ferociousness, and who wants it more. The fighters come together in the middle of the ring. Final instructions from the referee, they touch gloves, and we're about to have the opening bell. They retreat back to their corners. We've got Ma in the red and blue, Sargsyan in the black and white. He's also the bearded man, so it's not going to be too much difficulty telling them apart. These guys both coming in at just under 70 kilograms. A kick landed by Sargsyan after a bit of bobbing and weaving. Ma close to the ropes, and we've got an exchange of punches and then a clinch. Ma trying to push Sargsyan into the corner, and we're about to be joined by Daria Miroshenchenko. She's one of the ring girls here tonight. Thank you for joining us, Daria.
Thank you.
How's the action going so far for you?
Oh, actually it's amazing event, really, and I supported Azerbaijan guy. Now it's fight. We see the Armenian fighter. That's amazing, really.
How did you get into MMA actually and working in these events?
Actually, the fashion TV company offered me this job, so that's why I'm here. From fashion TV, from Beijing.
Okay, and I understand you've been in China as a student. You've been here for a couple of years. Tell us about your experience as we see the 2 fighters here go to the mat with Sargsyan on top of Ma.
Oh my God, I don't know what to say.
We've got a reversal now. Ma coming on top of Sargsyan. This is quite an exciting fight, don't you think, Daria?
I don't know.
You don't know, but the fans would say otherwise. You can hear the noise here. And we've got Ma, they're against the ropes, but he's trying to work something against Sargsyan.
They feel such a pain, I don't know, oh my God, poor fighters.
But let's come back to your experience here a little bit while there's a bit of a lull here in China. What are you studying?
I study Chinese language and some Chinese culture, history. I like it.
Okay, and which university do you attend?
No, I study by myself from school.
Okay, so you're doing kind of an independent study here.
Yeah.
What got you interested in these subjects?
Sorry?
What got you interested in studying this Chinese culture, history, language?
Maybe I'm gonna stay here in China.
A big roar comes up as Ma gets on top and starts landing some punches against Sargsyan, but they're still kind of knotted up. Sargsyan trying to fight back from the bottom. He puts his arm around the neck of Ma, but he's got his opponent down in a clinch, and he starts working his way up against Sargsyan. And the audience is about to get a little louder because he lands an elbow to his face. And now Ma is standing. What do you think about this so far?
I don't know what to say really, because it's my first time on this kind of events. So that's it.
Well, basically, we're going to have a clean break here. Ma stepping back. Sargsyan was trying to entice him back onto the mat, but now he's getting up and they're going mano a mano on their feet. Now it's Ma in the corner with Sargsyan trying to land some punches, and we get a kick from Ma. But you were saying, like, what brought you to this interest in Chinese culture?
So it's such a different culture than in other countries. The Chinese people, they're so straight people. They're so strong people. Like, if they see some problems, they don't give it. I'm sorry, can I say bad words now?
No bad words.
Okay. They don't care about anything. Don't care about people. They just see the goal and can reach the goal, like target.
And as we check back into the match, they're into the corner. Ma pushing Sargsyan into the corner, and the Armenian fighter is getting to his feet. Now they're both on their feet, but it looks like we may not have a takedown. Ma going for the single leg, and he pushes Sargsyan back into the corner. Bit of a stalemate between these two fighters, don't you think? Daria?
Oh, sorry.
Well, it's kind of evenly matched here between these two fighters, don't you think?
I'm going to support the Armenian guy.
Well, as I say that, the Armenian guy gets taken to his back once again by the Chinese fighter Ma. I don't know if you brought him a little bit of bad luck or anything.
I don't know.
But tell us about some of your experiences here in China besides your obviously working here with the combat sports and your studying.
So I'm working here like a model in China. I came in China almost 4 years ago. So, my God, that's amazing.
Bit of noise from the crowd as they're against the ropes, but Ma landed a couple of elbows and punches. But now Sargsyan is fighting back, and it looks like he's got Ma into some scissors. The referee jumps in because they're in a dangerous situation there. And that's the bell for the end of the first round. Looks like Sargsyan won by getting Ma to tap. That's unfortunate for the Chinese audience, but you were cheering for the guy from Armenia, and it looks like you're going to get your wish as he comes to the center of the ring.
Such a strong fighter. Just want to say he's big. I don't know, I'm so sorry.
Well, it was quite an evenly matched bout for quite a while, but eventually we had Sargsyan locking the scissors, landed a couple of strikes to the face of Ma, and then he got the scissor around his neck, and that caused Ma to tap. Once again, unfortunately for the Chinese fighter in this bout, the last MMA match of the night, but he did fight valiantly. Unfortunately, not able to break that leg scissor into the corner.
Good job.
It was a great job by both fighters, as you say. But tell me, what do you think as we wait for the official announcement of this match? You're studying Chinese culture. What do you think about some of the increased ties we're seeing between your country, Russia, and China?
I'm from Russia, and we have the really good friendship between China and Russia. So even our presidents, they have a good friendship. They even celebrate birthday together. So I think they are like our brothers, you know.
Well, Russia and China, obviously, both part of the Belt and Road, and all of these fighters here tonight, part of the Belt and Road as well. The Chinese fighters taking on some of the top fighters in their weight classes from the Belt and Road countries. And which match are you going to be working on tonight?
Tonight?
Yes.
I'm gonna go back home.
Well, we're going to wish you good luck, and obviously enjoy the rest of the evening, and good luck with your duties in the ring tonight. Thank you for joining us, Daria. It's been a pleasure. Thank you, Daria. That's Daria, our ring girl from Russia, as we get the announcement in the ring, about to have the referee lift the hand of the winner from this men's MMA bout, the last MMA bout of the evening. which ended with a head scissors and a tap. Let's listen into the ring. Sargsyan getting his arm raised. He's the winner. This again, men's light middleweight bout. Those guys, 70 kilograms. And Sargsyan from Armenia was able to defeat Ma from China. Not the result that these fans here wanted, the majority of them. But Sargsyan, he's a very strong fighter, as you see him lifting the trophy in the middle of the ring. And it's a very good result for the guy from Armenia. He improves his record now to 9-3. This is his 12th bout. And unfortunately for Ma, he drops to 3-3, so he's at the 500 mark. He will try to regroup the next time he steps in the ring. The next bout we're going to have tonight, we'll switch to kickboxing. It's going to be a men's flyweight bout, and it's going to be two teenagers. Youth will be served. We've got 14-year-old Dmitrio Puhak from the Ukraine, and he's going to be taking on 15-year-old Zhang Peimian from China. The young Chinese fighter is 12-2 in his career, and he's going to try to increase that to 13-2, obviously. Over the course of his career, his 12 wins, 10 of them are by knockout, and he will try to add to that. Once again, the referee in the middle of the ring getting ready to introduce the next bout. Let us keep our attention focused on the ring as the announcer brings up the fighters. He's making his announcements before they come down the ramp, and the audience will obviously explode for the Chinese fighter. But he's going to have his hands full, I suspect, with the youngster from Ukraine. Once again, his name, Dmitrio Puhak, and the youngster from China is Zhang Peimian. So 14 years old against 15 years old. And we're going to see possibly the future of kickboxing. This is a men's flyweight bout, and it is the fourth match on the card here at Beijing Combat. And as the announcer gets ready to introduce the first fighter, let's listen in. He's drawing it out, being dramatic, increasing the tension here among these 4,000 fans at the Chongping Gymnasium for this Belt and Road International Fighting Competition. Here we go. Let's listen in. The announcer obviously drawing it out. And now we've got the music for Dmitrio Puhak as the youngster comes to the ring in his blue robe. Let's focus on the ramp as the young man from Ukraine showing off his moves as he gets ready to make his way down the ramp. Once again, Dmitrio Puhak, he is 14 years old, and he's going up against the 15-year-old from China, Zhang Peimian. Should be an exciting bout. These two youngsters bringing a lot of energy. But one thing you have to wonder, these two teenagers are so young, and they're already starting their professional careers. And you think most children their age, studying, maybe playing a sport on the amateur level, these two youngsters are professionals, as we see Puhak stepping through the ropes. He's a boy, but he's a tough fighter, and he's really making his way into the professional ranks here at Beijing Combat. And now, let's get ready for the audience to explode for his opponent, Zhang. Now let's focus on Zhang Peimian coming down the ramp. He's wearing the red and white robe. He's going to show off a bit of his skills before he makes his way down the steps and towards the ring. Once again, he is 15 years old. Just amazing seeing these young fighters stepping in at such a young age. And in just a moment, I'm going to be joined by the great Korean champion Lee Da-soo, who won several MMA championships over his career, a lot of that coming in Japan. He's here to lend his expertise to Beijing Combat as they're bringing in experts from all around the world. Obviously, earlier we talked to Terry Trebilcock from King of the Cage in the US, bringing the American point of view. And now we're going to bring a bit of the Asian perspective with Lee Da-soo, the great Korean fighter, as we wait for the introductions here in the ring between Puhak and Jang. The referee checking on the gloves of both fighters. He's now in the corner with Jang, who's getting doused with a bit of water. Make sure he's hydrated. Referee making sure that everything is clean there, wiping the water off of the canvas in case they go into the corner there. While his opponent, Puhak, waits on the other side. He looks calm, looks composed, but almost the entire crowd is going to be behind him, or I should say behind his opponent, Jang, when they lock up in the middle of the ring. Once again, I'll be joined in a few moments by Lee Da-soo, the Korean former MMA champion, and we'll talk a bit about his experiences and what they can bring to Beijing Combat here at this Belt and Road International Fighting Competition. Final announcements from the announcer. Jang leans against the ropes, make sure he's nice and limber. Puhak on the other side, staring down his opponent. That's a professional stance right there from the young man from Ukraine. Jang still stretching himself out, getting limber. Once again, we'll remind you this is a kickboxing fight, so a bit different from the MMA that we just saw, but a lot of the same elements. Jang putting his leg up on the top rope, making sure it's nice and stretched in case he wants to deliver some jabs and kicks to his opponent. Now, Puhak turns around, gets a final look at his corner, instructions from his trainer, but he's very stoic as he looks around the audience, gives a thumbs up to his supporters in the crowd. Not daunted by the fact that he's fighting here in China. And Jang has a great record, as I mentioned earlier, and he's going to look to improve on that as he goes up against Puhak. Listen in. Another announcement from the man in the middle of the ring. He's introducing the referee for this bout. We've had a bit of a change, and now the fighters have their turn. Let's listen in. Now the announcer steps out, and the referee is going to take control, bringing the two fighters to the center of the ring for this kickboxing bout. Once again, male flyweight bout, and two teenagers, 14 years old versus 15 years old. They're starting their professional careers at such a young age. And it's going to be interesting to see the difference between the professionals, the adults that we saw earlier, and now these two teenagers going at it in the center of the ring. Both have their gloves up as we get ready to start this kickboxing bout. The referee wants to make sure they're in the proper spots in their corners. These two youngsters, very eager, as you expect. As I said earlier, youth is going to be served, and these two raring to go. There we've got the bell. Jang versus Puhak. Quick kick from Jang and a clinch on the ropes. The young Chinese fighter coming out aggressive right away, but his opponent from the Ukraine switches and starts sending some knees up, and the referee has to separate them. Jang with a couple of punches, and he's starting to wail away on Puhak, who gets him into a clinch, but the youngster from Ukraine is trapped in the corner, and again trying to reverse the momentum. He's trying to get in some knees, but he's not having much of an impact. And they keep going on to the ropes, spinning around, and we've got another break. Now they're going to go at it again. This time it was Puhak putting up some kicks, but Jang responds with some punches, and we've got a clinch on the ropes once again. The referee trying to get them to come off, and he stops them once again. These two come at each other, but the action goes right to the edge of the ropes. Jang with a kick, Puhak with some jabs from his knee. Once again, not much impact. and they're going to have to be separated. 14 years old versus 15 years old. Professional MMA fighters, or kickboxers, I should say, at this fighting competition here at the Beijing Chongping Gymnasium. Puhak sizing up Zhang, who tests him with a couple of kicks. Puhak had his leg locked for a moment but let him go, and we've got another break. Not many high-impact blows yet, and now I'm going to be joined in a momentarily by Lee Da-so, the great Korean MMA fighter, who's coming on, and we're going to have a bit of translation as well. I'll be joined by Lee Da-so and his translator. Once again, Lee Da-so, nice to meet you. Thank you for joining us. First thing I'd like to ask, obviously you had a great MMA career and you won a lot of championships in Japan, and now we've got the market growing here in China. What do you like so far about what you've seen in China?
首先，您在 MMA 职业生涯中非常的优秀，您在日本的成绩也非常的优秀。那关于，那对于 MMA 在中国的市场，您有什么看法？
저기 MMA 중국의 시장에 어떻게 발전나갈지는 저거 무슨 의견을 있으신지 어떻게 보시는지를.
내가 그 일본에서 그 90년대, 80년대 이 MMA 선수 생활을 내가 10년 했는데 오늘 여기 중국에서 이렇게 이 제3회 창평배 국제 이 종합격투기 대회를 보니까 굉장히 많이 그 짜임새 있고 아주 이 진행이 잘 돼 있고 선수들 기량도 아주 좋아요.
今天非常高兴，作为第三方邀请嘉宾，然后来参加我们在中国举办的比赛。我曾经在80年代到90年代作为选手在日本活动10年，然后感觉现在中国的 MMA 市场。
While we're getting the translation, I'll just point out that was the end of the first round. A bit of a stalemate, I should say, between the two young fighters.
I'm really happy to be here today, and I have a fight in the 80s and 90s in Japan, and now I'm very glad to see that MMA has spread too many people. It's so popular in China.
Now I'd like to ask Mr. Lee, we've got these two young fighters in the ring right now, these two kickboxers, 14 years old and 15 years old, and they represent possibly the future of their sport. What do you think about what we're seeing between these two youngsters?
现在场上的是两个14岁和15岁的两个选手。
While we're getting the translation, we've got a replay of the action going on in the ring as we get ready to start the second round. These two youngsters evenly matched so far, and we'll see what the second round will bring as we get Lee Da-so to talk about his impression of these two youngsters.
이런 그 무술이라는 거는 배움으로써 정신과 육체가 건강해지고 또 지금 그 선수들 어린 선수들 시합하는 거 보니까 앞으로 중국의 이 MMA 이 무에타이 이 시장이 굉장히 밝아요.
While we get the translation of Mr. Lee's answer, second round is underway between these two 50-kilogram fighters. Zhang landing a kick, and that gets a bit of a reaction from the crowd. He lands another kick as they move to the ropes. Puhak tries to get him into a clinch, and they go spinning near towards the corner once again. And we've got a takedown. Puhak is on top, and the referee breaks them.
The 14 and 15 years athletes can be the future of the MMA in China, and practicing MMA cannot not only practice the physical body, also the mind, and also can spread the martial arts of China to the whole world.
And obviously not only the martial arts of China, but Puhak bringing some of the European styles that he's learned in the Ukraine, and really this is blending of the styles. And I'd like to ask Mr. Lee, what does he think about the future of MMA in China? Not only these two youngsters, but what he's seeing as far as the sport is developing in China. While we get the translation, I'll point out some of the action that we're seeing in the ring. Another break between these two fighters. Not a lot of tough action as they keep kind of exchanging kicks, exchanging clinches on the ropes, kind of sizing each other up and trying to look for an advantage. And we got another stop as Zhang kind of had a headlock on his opponent, Puhak.
또 중국 이 어린 선수와 또 외국 선수 어린 선수 경기하는 거 볼 때 굉장히 많이 발전이 돼 있어요. 발전이 됐고 아마 3년 후 정도 되면은 우리 중국 MMA가 또 이런 산타 이런 무에타이가 굉장히 그 선진국의 이런 그 시합보다 더 아마 앞서갈 것 같아요.
While we get the translation of Mr. Lee's answer, another break in the ring between these two young fighters. They keep sizing each other up, looking for an opening. Zhang with a punch combination, and Puhak is backing up.
As you can see, there are so many crowds, so many visitors in this stadium. So as we can see from that, in the next 3 or 5 years, MMA will be very popular in China, and China will be a really strong country in MMA in the whole world.
Okay, and there you have the opinion of Lee Da-so, the MMA champion from Korea. Thank you very much, Mr. Lee, and good luck with the rest of your trip here in China. And as we wrap up our interview with Lee Da-so, we've got some action heating up in the ring. Zhang getting the crowd behind him as he lands a side kick. Puhak goes down but gets right back to his feet, and the referee breaks them apart. And as we've got a standing count here in the corner on Puhak, the referee making sure that he can continue. And we're going to wrap up our live streaming. Once again, we're on the CGTN app, Weibo, Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. This has been the 3rd edition of Beijing Combat here at the Beijing Chongping Gymnasium. Thank you for joining us, and we'll see you at the next event.